Now, the government are talking about making people who are not able to work due to things like anxiety go actually back to work. What they've said is, if you're anxious because you can't leave the house, if you're anxious because you can't be in a workplace because you can't be around other people, if you're anxious because you can't travel on a train because it makes you more anxious, if you're anxious because you can't get on a bus because it makes you more anxious, then you can't do that either. Well, that's okay. We'll find you a job in which you can work from home. And then that way, you won't have to be so anxious. Now, it might be that you get anxious making Zoom calls. It might be that you get anxious answering the phone. There might be all sorts of reasons for it, but the government, I think, is right to say that we have to try and move the dial on this. We have to try and actually make Britain less sick. Sick note Britain is a word that gets used all the time. And quite frankly, there's no question that too many people are claiming that they can't work because they're sick in this country. It used to be that you could say you had a bad back. It used to be that you could say you were suffering from mental health problems or that you were suffering from depression. All of those things are perfectly valid things, as long as they are provable and as long as the government of the day can make sure that when you are incapable of working, you are genuinely incapable of working. In my experience, an awful lot of people would like to do some work, even if it means that they would lose some benefits. But it's not right to expect people to go to work if they're going to lose all their benefits. And it's not a good look if you can actually make more money on benefits than you can in a proper job. And that, of course, is part of the problem as well. So here's what the government has to do. First of all, they have to sharpen themselves up. They have to take a view. They have to make it very, very simple for everybody to say, look, if you're genuinely in need of help, we will support you. But if you are taking the mickey out of the system, and if you are long-term sick, and if you are telling me that you cannot work just because you don't feel like it, then that isn't really on. Because in most countries, if you don't feel like working, you don't get supported. If you don't want to work, get somebody else to support you. Get your wife to support you. Get your husband to support you. Get your kids to support you. But don't get me to support you or the taxpayer, because that's not fair. If you're genuinely ill, then of course this is a country that will look after you. But unfortunately, the genuinely ill people are getting tarnished by those who are not genuinely ill. And it's as simple as that. The lefties will, of course, be having a go at me for the rest of the day. Cruel, heartless Mike Graham, what a horrible man. He wants to send the sick and the disabled back to work. Well, let me tell you this. Just because you're disabled doesn't mean you can't work. There's plenty of disabled people that can work and that do work and that want to work. So don't be so ridiculously prejudicial against people just because you think they're different from you. The difference between me and you lot who say, oh, you're evil, you're cruel, you want to send disabled people back to work, is that I don't see disabled people, I just see people. So you help everybody get back to work. And that'll be better for them, better for us, and better for Britain, quite frankly.